Thank you all for joining me. I'm throwing this extra live streaming in to make up for the one that I missed last month. I apologize again for that. I do have a couple of announcements. We have the New Zealand retreat is up and ready for booking. We are almost full already within just 2 or 3 days, which is kind of miraculous. So we are going to be adding some non-resident spots for those people who think they might need to take a little time to decide. It's very close to Auckland, the location, so there will be Airbnbs around the area. Carol Morgan's going to do some research on that, so if anybody is in a bit of a panic, they'd like to come but they can't book right now, we are going to be adding some off-site residential spots. We have one place in a shared female room got cancelled in Mexico, so we do have one spot available in a triple shared room in Mexico if you are a female. I do want to make an announcement. We're working on developing our new platform, which is on Mighty Networks. 5 of us are working very hard to put all of my videos, convert them into MP3s, and all of those MP3s transcribed as well onto that site. So there's going to probably be, and there's going to be all of the live streams available in video and MP3 form. So this is going to be a huge resource for subscribers. We will be migrating over there on the new year. So the private Facebook group will be closed down on Facebook, and we will be conducting those conversations on Mighty Networks starting January 1st. And it will be a big change for all of us not being on the Facebook group, because Facebook is so easy. But as I have mentioned before, I'm migrating my work off Facebook and YouTube because of the censorship, and there are new censorship laws coming into effect on YouTube December 10th, where they may very well be deleting channels that are not profitable for them. And because I do not do advertising on my channel, I would be one of those channels that is not profitable for YouTube. So if that happens, then we will have all of our information, all of our videos on Mighty Networks already. So that's being done in preparation for something like that happening. Obviously you don't know, you can go to your YouTube channel one day and it's closed. And, but we have archived all the videos and they will be on Mighty Networks. But for those of you that are on the Facebook group, we will be notifying you and giving you the links to join Mighty Networks, where all of these wonderful resources. So if you're a relatively newcomer to the live streaming, you will have 80 more live streams that you can watch. So that's going to be a really great archive for all of you. So that's kind of our little carrot dangling to get you over there, is that there's going to be the whole archive of live streams will be available to you. And that will all be included in your subscription cost of $33 US a month. So you're going to be getting a lot more. I will also be doing I'll be doing 1 live stream a month, but I will be doing 4 unique Jesus commentary videos, 1 a week, for the subscribers on the Mighty Networks. So each week you will have a unique video and 1 live stream a month. And Jesus is actually kind of mentioning to me that he wants to do 40 days and 40 nights. A 40-day program in the new year. So that's something that will also be available to you as subscribers. So that's all the business, I think. So let's see what Jesus has to say to us today. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we thank you for joining us today. We truly thank you for joining us today. The methodologies that we use to communicate must expand as this group expands. And we must expand as your censorship expands. We must find ways where we can be useful without depending on a particular company. So that is one of the reasons why we have prompted our dear one to move the work over from these increasingly obstructive platforms. These businesses have been very, very clever. We have somebody online right now who does not have their microphone muted. Could you all please check and make sure that your microphone has the red line through it, because somebody is disturbing the broadcast with their microphone on. Please make sure you are muted so that we can continue on with this broadcast. Thank you very much. We are excited about this new channel because it is going to be dedicated to this work. Our dear one has a tremendous amount of material that has not yet been comprehensively archived. And so what you are going to get when you come over to this new platform is an uninterrupted conversation. It means that you are going to be able to delve into particular subjects. You are going to be able to see transcripts. You are going to be able to have MP3s so that you don't have to watch a video. You are going to have conversations that are not going to be interrupted by advertisers. You are not going to be, as we say, taken down the YouTube rabbit hole. You will be in a confined space, but in that sense, it will be free of interference. And of course, as many of you know, when you go on to YouTube or Facebook, there is much interference, not only visual interference, but behind the scenes interference. So this platform is isolated in that sense. It is not a public venue, and so it is not going to harvest you for your information, for your money, or anything else. So it is going to be a pristine and clear, dedicated place for those of you that are serious about studying this material and having new material come your way. The systems that have designed these large public platforms had a very long-term strategy when they started, and that was to give you everything you wanted so that in the end they could get everything that they wanted. It's very much like being seduced by somebody. If somebody has the intention of seducing you, they will give you flowers and dinners and sweet talk to get what they want. And Facebook and YouTube have done that indeed. That was their plan from the beginning, to get you all dependent on those things. So what we want you to understand as you're going through this transition, our dear one's going through it already. She feels quite nervous about the transition, but we want you to understand that just as in any other addiction that you may have, as you change over, you are going to feel some negative feelings. So what we would suggest to all of you, if you had a little negative response when our dear one said that the conversations that now take place in the private Facebook group are going to be now on Mighty Networks as of January 1st, that little negative feeling that you have is your little addiction to the Facebook format. And we would like you to begin working on your minds this month, telling yourself that this platform is going to be better in the long run. Yes, it's going to be a little awkward at first. Yes, you're going to have to figure out how to get there. Well, it will be one link. It will be very, very easy. It will be as if just clicking a button and you'll be there. But you'll have to learn some new navigation tools once you're there. It's organized slightly differently, but there are only 5 or 6 buttons for you to learn. You'll be able to do it. But if you had that little negative feeling, that's the heads up for you that the resistance to this is out of alignment. So we want you to begin to tell yourselves, oh, January 1st, I'll be moving from the private Facebook group over to the Mighty Networks. We will tell you it will be a deep well of information for you, And for those of you that have been chomping at the bit to get old live streams, they will all be there available to you. So it will be a great feast on January 1st. You can sit and watch videos that you've not seen before. So that's our little bit of a pep talk for the transformation that's going to be happening. We will be giving you lots and lots of information in the new year. And we are anticipating a great increase in the number of people joining, because our dear one is investing in that, getting more and more people to join this group. Why? Because this group is powerful. This group is making change. This group is affecting more than you know. We see the effect that the collective actions, thoughts, words, practices of all of you in concert are having, not only in your neighborhoods and your families and your communities, but globally. We are seeing an effect. And as this focal point becomes larger and larger, that effect is going to be larger and larger, exponentially so. For every 10 people more that come into this group, it is magnified 1,000 times. So get very excited that you are here. Get very excited that a change is coming and there is a potential for expansion. The times are changing. You are in for some great revelations in the next couple of months from governments, from secret sources, we will say, beings who are becoming whistleblowers. The imperative in individuals who are contained within systems that are dysfunctional or illegal or deceptive, the desire for truth is arising in many, many people. And once again, we give you a little warning about mainstream media. If it's on mainstream media, the story that they're telling you generally is smoke and mirrors. You will want to go to alternative news sources, and there are a lot of alternative news sources that are on YouTube, but that is of course why they are beginning to censor, because the messaging of the alternative news sources is undermining the propaganda of the mainstream news sources. So you are going to see an increase in censorship, an increase in control or attempts at control to maintain the status quo. But as we've told you many, many times before, the energies that are penetrating the earth and you are designed to awaken. They are designed to crack open and dissolve the programs that you've got running. So for all of you, as we come to the end of this year, we want you to be really aware of the desire for change that is arising within you. You are going to begin to feel that there are things that you should probably change in your life. It may be that you've got some unhealthy habits that are really starting to become apparent to you. It may be that you have some unhealthy relationships that really need to be attended to. It may be that there are areas of your life that are becoming intolerable because they no longer resonate with you. We want to remind you that this is not a fault of yours. You have not suddenly become an intolerant person. You are being asked to become congruent with your true desires and beliefs and what you'd like to have in your life and how you'd like to live. You are beginning to be raised frequency-wise, and you are going to feel it in the form of dissatisfaction with things that are no longer in accord with your beliefs. So, as we've mentioned before, this is not going to go away and get better by itself. It is, in fact, going to keep increasing. So we would like all of you at this time to acknowledge this in your own minds, to say, this is why my tolerance for this situation is going down. It is not because I'm becoming impatient. It's not because of that. It's because I'm being asked to become more authentic. And what we want you to do with that information is to choose each day one tiny thing that you can do to shift your focus from what you don't want to what you do want. So if it's a job, for example, that you have that is really wearing on you, we want you to begin to start the day by saying to yourself, I'm not going to be at this job forever. I'm here right now and I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm not going to be at this job forever. Because this is one of the beliefs, or one of the thoughts, if you believe it, that begins to wear you down at work when you say, I can't do this forever. You act as if you have to do this forever. And when you believe you have to do this forever, you get this overwhelming feeling of sadness or disillusionment. What we'd like you to begin saying, if you really don't want to do your job much longer, is to say, I'm not going to be here forever. Change is coming, and I'm going to begin to look for opportunities and ideas in my mind and outside of myself, in conversations, in random places. I'm going to start looking for the signs of where I might move. Now, in terms of work, this can make the ego very, very nervous, because your work and your paychecks and your mortgages and your regular bill payments, these are all heavy, heavy burdens that the ego places upon you and that this society trains you into. So we want you to just lightly broach the subject. If you don't have any idea how you'd like to change your work, if you don't have any idea of what that might look like, don't try and figure it out, but just say lightly to yourself, I'm not going to be here forever. I'm going to do the best I can today because I'm here and that's what is, but I'm going to give myself the release button that says, I'm not going to be here all the time. And then the ego will immediately say to you, but what are you going to do? And you may respond and go, I don't know yet, but something will make itself clear. What you're doing is you're beginning to ease your mind into a different lane on the highway, let us say. You're in heavy, heavy traffic. Let's pretend you're driving in Los Angeles traffic and you've got 10 lanes of traffic here and you can't see your way out of it. There's no way to turn. Now, if you liken that to your job right now, I can't see how I'm going to get out of it. What you would do on the highways, if you wanted to get off the highway, you would say, okay, I need to get off this highway. It's driving me crazy. I'm just going to change one lane here as soon as I possibly can. And so at some point in the next 5 minutes, there'll be a tiny little gap. Somebody else will be changing lanes and there's your opening. And so you pull over one lane. You drive another 10 minutes or so and you pull over one lane. And before you know it, you are on the edge of the highway and the next exit, you are there. But if you do not change lanes, if you keep sitting in the 8th lane in from the exit ramp and saying, I can't do anything, I'm too scared to move, you are not ever going to be able to take the exit ramp. So we would like you to begin to think of ways of changing lanes. How can you change lanes in this job that you seem to be trapped in, that you seem to be too frightened to leave? The first thing is, oh, let me change one lane. What could that look like? It could look like cutting back from 40 hours to 35 hours, perhaps, talking to your boss and saying, I really need to cut back a few hours. It could be changing lanes is, oh, I've got a lot of holidays booked up. I've got a lot of time that I've not taken off. I'm going to plan that time. I'm going to start requesting to use all of that time so that I have some decompression time, because when you are working full time, paying all the bills, doing all of that stuff, stuck in that traffic, gridlocked in that traffic, you don't have downtime, because Saturdays you have to do the housework and do the grocery shopping. Sundays, half of you spend Sundays sad because you have to go back to work on Mondays when you have those kinds of jobs. So we would like you to see taking your time off that you have accumulated would be a way of changing lanes. That means you get perhaps a week or 2 weeks off to sleep in, to rest your body. You're not going to necessarily come up with the answer in that time, but you are going to be able to do some downtime, which is what most of you need initially. When you first begin to break out of these time prisons and these work prisons, often the first reaction is to do nothing, and that is okay. It's okay to do nothing. You've been doing too much. You've been too stressed. There have been too many spinning plates on the sticks, and it's okay to rest when you take that time off. So begin to look at ways that you might begin to change lanes. Another way that you can change lanes if you are working full-time, that's something that you need the money for your family and your food and your mortgage, is to begin to look for stories of other people who have changed lanes or taken the exit off the freeway. Watch videos about people who have quit their jobs as account managers and now are teaching yoga in India or whatever it is that they are doing. It doesn't have to be the same business or the same qualifications that you have, but begin to infuse your mind with the stories of people who have already done it. So those are several ways that you can change lanes and prepare yourself to get off the freeway. And that's a very good analogy because you all know what it's like when you have to get off the freeway and you've not given yourself enough time. There's that feeling of panic. And what we want you to know is that as these changes come to your society, over time, some of the positions and some of the security and some of the jobs that are currently active are going to begin to shift and change as well. You have this technology revolution happening where robots are taking over more and more things, where drones are taking over more and more things. You are going to see driverless cars coming online very, very soon. You are going to see many technological changes that are going to put people out of business. There are going to be new opportunities coming your way, but if you are in that gridlock mindset, you may miss them. So start changing lanes and prepare for your exit if that is what you want. If you love what you're doing and you want to keep earning the money you're earning and you enjoy the hours that you're doing, don't worry about it. You are in the right place. But for those of you that are in the wrong place right now and would like change, that is our recommendation. Of course, if you are unemployed or underemployed, we would like you to use the same technique. How can you change lanes towards that exit that's going to give you opportunity? Do you need to get healthier and fitter? Are you perhaps depressed because you're overweight and under-exercised? That would be changing lanes towards the exit that is going to take you to a new career. If you're going to start a new career, you don't want to start a new career feeling tired and depressed and not good about yourself. Begin to go for a walk in the morning. Begin to go to the gym a little bit, go to the community center a little bit. See this as, oh, this is just a little lane change here. I'm not changing everything, but I am preparing myself. And what happens is every time you act in accord with a new belief, oh, I'm going to find that new thing that I've been waiting for. I'm tired of being unemployed or underemployed. I'm going to start looking for something that excites me, but I don't know what it is yet. But I do know that if I'm going to go into a new career or a new training program or a new education program that's going to lead me towards something that is going to require full-time work of me or more work of me, then I should prepare for that. It's logical that you would change lanes by getting yourself fitter, getting yourself healthier, getting yourself more in accord with what you truly want for yourself. Nobody wants to sit at home watching soap operas all day. It's not very exciting. Remember, the ego likes the same things over and over and over again. It doesn't care for your expansion. It doesn't care about this great awakening that's happening. It only cares about safety and security and isolation and keeping you safe. That's all it cares about. Even though its short-term strategies for keeping you safe can, in the long term, be very detrimental to your health. The ego might tell you, sit on the couch and watch TV and eat donuts. That's keeping you safe for now, but in the long run, of course, it will make you very, very sick. So the ego does not have long-term strategies. Why? Because it's about living in the present moment. The ego is only designed to keep you safe in this moment. And so it uses very short-term strategies. It doesn't have any long-term, healthy, spiritual strategies at all. It's a completely different thought system. So don't look to the ego for support, but look to these teachings for support and encouragement, and the beings that are in these groups for support and encouragement. There are always people online who are willing to have a conversation or to give you feedback on questions that you have. So another lane change that might be in order if you are underemployed or unemployed would be to look at different careers, look at videos of people doing different things. Have you ever thought about moving to the country and working on a farm? Have you ever thought about becoming an artist? Have you ever thought about re-educating yourself and becoming a doctor? Have you ever thought about re-educating yourself and becoming a teacher? Have on and on and on. Look at movies and videos and documentaries about subjects that might interest you. Every one of you has a guidance system that is telling you to go towards certain things. How does it work? You like them. You're interested in them. You find yourself talking about them or watching them without any effort whatsoever. You have the guidance system telling you already. What you also have, however, is a conditioning program that says you can't make a living doing that. And that, of course, is not true. With your internet and with your the increasing frequencies that this planet is going through, there are going to be a huge number of transformations in how people make a living as well. So expand your mind, keep changing lanes, keep working towards that which you would need for the new place that you would like to go to. That is a very, very important thing, to envision yourself where you would like to be and think, okay, if I am here and I need to get there, what things will cause me trouble that I'm doing now? It could be your food, it could be your physique, it could be your fitness level, it could be your education level, it could be your financial problems. So begin to work on those and see them as changing lanes in preparation for the exit that you want to take off that gridlocked freeway. We will return shortly. All right. Everything's still good? You can all hear me? Long one. You said long one? It was a long one, 27 minutes. First question. Will TV, mobile phones, business corporations, etc., be no more in the new earth, or will they transform into more benevolent systems? I know Jesus spoke about internet being there, but what about these other items, mobile phones, business corporations, etc.? Or will the battle of duality continue? Just musing. Okay. Let's see what Ananda has to say. We're with you again, dear ones. We thank you, as always, for coming together at this time and place. Even those of you that are listening to the recordings, we thank you for tuning in. There are a billion things that you could be doing right now, a billion movies, a billion videos, a billion books, and yet here you are. And so we thank you for bringing yourselves to this place and time so that we can have this communication with you. This is our spiritual work, and so we are very, very grateful when you participate in such a conscious way with our teachings and the teachings that are coming through this being. Your society is going to be shifting towards more and more technology, but what's going to happen is a shift in the frequency of your planet to such a degree that the darker realms of those technologies are going to be obliterated. Now, we can't go into details of how that's going to happen, but that is going to happen. However, there is going to be a plethora of ingenious beings determined to keep up the positive side of mass communications. And so you will have the internet. There are times when you may see the internet go down for a few days, but it will come back up again. And so there are people already at work in preparation for these events. So what are these events? Well, there are energy shifts that are going to be transpiring that involve solar activity that are going to be very, very powerful. And in preparation for that solar activity, these and many other teachings have been coming through for a very, very long time. The solar activity is going to be beneficial. It is going to be frequency uplifting. But if you are too far away from the frequency that it is going to uplift everyone to, then it will seem to be detrimental. Now, most of you who are here have no concern. You are studying, you are doing your forgiveness practice, you are seeing the physical, mental, and emotional benefits of the work that you have been participating in. And that is all you can do. All you can do is remove from your mind that which is hateful, that which is negative, that which is separation focused. But do not fret. Perfection is not required. It is merely a level of acceleration that is required, that will permit you to go through the solar activation without difficulty. It will stimulate, it will excite, it will imbue you with transformation, but it will be manageable for those of you that are on the higher frequencies. For those beings that are on the lower frequencies, there will be confusion, there will be agitation and anxiety, there will be at times even a psychosis of some sort, but you are already seeing that in your society. You are beginning to see the torn edges of some of the systems that are beginning to collapse, whether it be military and political coups, countries, economies collapsing, refugees leaving areas and overwhelming other areas, weather phenomenon. All of these things are beginning to show you what's going on. And what we want to emphasize is that you are going to be fine. You are going to have the inner resources and the ability to step back from falling into fear when you see a system beginning to crumble. And that is why we began working with this being 7 or 8 years ago, because it was necessary for as many people as possible to get this information, so that when these systems begin to waver in the winds of change, that you will be solidly planted in the new thought system, and you will be able to say, here it comes. Here come the changes that they have been speaking about. I'm perfectly fine. I have been doing all kinds of things in preparation, mentally and emotionally, internally, to handle these changes. And so those of you that are in this group, we would like to encourage you to continue on with your work without a sense of fear. Don't go into it with a sense of fear, thinking, oh my goodness, if I don't do this one forgiveness practice with this one person and I don't get it completely clear, I'm in trouble. No, that's not how it works. We will tell you the lower frequencies are lower. There are so many low frequency beings on this planet engaging in low frequency behavior. Those of you that are studying A Course in Miracles and doing this work have no concerns. So relax and continue your practice. You are going to continue to have amazing technology because you are going to have amazing connections with highly evolved extraterrestrial beings as you go through these massive shifts in this generation. They have technology that you should have had long ago that has been kept from you. Water clarification technology, healing technologies, anti-aging technologies, all kinds of things that exist on planet Earth but have been kept for the very special few who are holding the reins of control. All of these things exist on your Earth right now, but through the censoring systems and the control systems that are at play, you have not received them. So understand that there are technologies that are active on your planet right now that are really will really surprise you. When you find out about them, you will be absolutely shocked that they have been in effect for such a long time and that you were not given permission to have access to them. There will be a lot of anger when many beings find out that the person who they loved who died of cancer did not need to die of cancer, that there has been a cure for a very, very long time. Things like this. And so this is one of the reasons why it has been so important for you to develop your forgiveness practice, because once the revelations of secrets and withheld information come to light, if you are in full judgment mode, you are going to suffer, because you are going to become angry and want retribution. You can even see it now when some of these secrets are being revealed about child trafficking and these sorts of things. But there are going to be more and more and more of those revealed. And so we want all of you who have been practicing your forgiveness practice to understand that that is why it's so important. That when things are revealed to you that have been detrimental to your society, you may feel anger, you may feel a reaction, but you understand that if you go down that vibrational ladder, it is you that's going to suffer today. And many of you are going to have to do some work on forgiving what's been done on and to and in and through this planet. So yes, you're going to have technologies. Yes, you're going to have companies. You're going to have companies that are less capitalistic in that sense. You're not going to have big corporations mowing down virgin forests to get their profits up. You are going to see an increase in innovative green businesses because as these changes happen and as you see the younger people coming into positions of influence, voting, for example, and entering into the political arenas, you are going to see massive changes to the laws that have been in place for decades and at times even centuries, that have kept the companies and the wealthy immune from any cost of the damage that they're doing to people, places, or things. So you are going to see revolutionaries coming into positions of influence, but because of we will say the collapse of the old system, there's going to be a period when it's going to be quite rocky in terms of the old system not functioning anymore and being abandoned, and the new system not quite yet in operation. But what's going to happen with the new systems is that they are not going to be so centralized. You are going to see much more organization locally. You're going to see much more organization provincially rather than global. So right now you're seeing global systems, the United Nations, the World Bank, all of these sorts of things that are global institutions running roughshod over people, places that they don't care about or that they need for their resources. That's what you're going to see the change in. You're going to see the global companies, the global influences subsiding into a more localized, but it's going to be a choppy sea for a while. And that's one of the reasons that over time we have said, invest your money. If you don't feel comfortable doing all of it, invest some of your money in making your life better today, in investing in what's going to help you live a clean and happy life, whether it's a water filtration system, turning your lawn into a garden, the things that we have mentioned. We don't want to repeat ourselves too much because people get frustrated, but you have to understand that you got yourselves into this trouble by being indoctrinated repeatedly through commercials, through your school systems, and we have to recondition you repeatedly so that you get these ideas. Many of you have been listening to us for several years and still do not have a garden patch in your back garden. You are still mowing the lawn and you wonder why we repeat ourselves. It's because the indoctrinations about lawns are so deeply ingrained in your society, and the fear of retribution from your neighbors, or the fear of judgment from your neighbors, or the fear of hard work, or the fear of change is deeply indoctrinated into you. And so you will not add a garden plot to your lawn. And so that is why we repeat ourselves, because it's necessary. It's the only way you can learn. We will return shortly. All right. They're on that garden thing. So I just want to let you know, I did hand build 5 raised beds in my backyard in the fall. It's too wet and muddy now to do it. It was a lot of fun, and it only cost me a few $100. And what a joy to have raised beds on the lawn. So what I did was I put 2 or 3 layers of cardboard. I got plywood cut to 4 feet by 2 feet. I hammered them together. I put soil in there, and I could build one of those in just a couple of hours for not very much money at all. No weeds. Yes, there were a few bags of soil, but they're all planted up. I picked my very first broccoli today that I have ever grown in my life. And it was very satisfying. So I encourage all of you that have not yet built raised beds on your lawns to begin to do it. It's fun, and that food is very, very healthy because it's grown with love and no pesticides. So that's my 2 cents worth there. Okay, let me just have a sip of tea here. My question is, in the book Great Minds Speak, it communicates the idea that when we die, we enter a state of wholeness, peaceful, and then proceed with a life review, only to re-enter this world of separation to continue working out our lessons. Are we in a state of wholeness when we die, or is it something else? It doesn't make sense that we would continually request to leave that whole state and come back to separation when we are being taught that we need to achieve wholeness on this physical plane. Okay, so let's see what Jesus has to say about that. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And we want you to understand that there is a sort of intermediary place where you are instructed and helped and healed and loved when you have been repeatedly coming down into separation because of what you hold in your mind. You must remember that if you're living on this planet at this time and you are repeatedly, many times a day, saying hateful things to yourself about yourself, really unkind things that make you feel terrible, and for 70 or 80 years you're doing this to yourself, you have been planting seeds with the ego mind, with the separation focused mind. When you pass over, the mind that you have cultivated here is going to be the mind that is the deciding factor, let us say, of your next experience. Now, if you have spent that 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 years cultivating love, cultivating self-expression and creativity and expansion and wisdom and education, and you have been growing, that mind harvest is going to be the one that you get. This is not about punishment. This is about the seeds that you are planting. Now, in the minds of a lot of you, there is this idea of there's this one life and then there's the judgment day. And that's really where this question is coming from. You have this idea that when you die, everything is sold. No, when you live, everything is sold. Life is never ending. You continue to live. It's just sometimes you're living with a body and sometimes you're living without a body. You are always conscious. You are always alive in that sense that you have that feeling of who you are. As you pass over, the veil of forgetting passes away. And that is the experience you have of breaking out of the ego. The ego is the forgetful self, the separation focused self, the physically focused self. And what you have left is the non-physical parts of yourself. The non-physical parts of yourself, however, also contain that which you have been cultivating. So if you've been cultivating self-loathing, you are going to go into a conversation with your guides and teachers about that self-loathing, that attack on self. Those seeds are going to need to be harvested, and they are harvested in the form of the next incarnation, which, when you're coming from this place of Judgment Day sensibility, we will say, feels like you're being punished. No, you're not being punished. You are being given another opportunity to change your mind. You see, you are made in the image of God, which means you are given free will. That means you are free to listen or you are free to ignore. And all of you know that throughout your lives, you have been given information about health, about kindness, about awakening, about creativity, about joy. You've been given all kinds of information. How much of that information have you ignored? How much of that information have you contemplated and perhaps employed in your daily life? But you are given free will, and nothing is allowed to override that. And so if you choose self-loathing for your whole life, then you will have to come into another physical incarnation, because the next level up, let's say, and we're using your language, we're not saying up in the sense of better, but it's sort of like graduating school. You've got to get your grade 12 before you can go to a university. You can apply to a university and say, I want to come to this university. And they'll say, well, let's have a look at your transcripts. And they'll say, well, you have got terrible marks in all of these subjects. If you come into this university, you will not be able to manage the lessons that we are going to be able to teach you. So unfortunately, you can't come up here in here. So if you look at it that way, you don't think the university is being unreasonable when they say to somebody who has failing grades in all of the basic subjects, you say, well, that would be foolish for them to let that person in, because this person can't handle grade 12. How are they going to handle a bachelor's degree? But that's exactly how it is with your spiritual lessons. If you have failed on the most basic of subjects, which is learning to like yourself, for example, then the next level of consciousness up from the 3D earth plane is going to be above and beyond your abilities, because your experience and your life's investment has shown you that you have not yet managed to even learn to like or love yourself. So that's how we'd like you to look at it. We'd like you to look at it as repeating a year until you can apply yourself to the lessons in grade 12 and pass those subjects. You're not going to be allowed to go into university. The same thing goes for a master's degree. If you have been getting very low marks on your bachelor's degree and you failed all of these subjects, those professors are going to say, you're not ready yet for a master's degree. You need to redo that year because you have not shown yourself able to master what's required to then go on to a master's degree, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So we want you to take it less personally in that sense and not see it, why would I choose to come back here? Well, the question is, why would you choose to hate yourself for your whole life? That's the question that needs to be asked, not why would I have to come back, but why am I not learning what I need to learn here? If you can master this life and come to a place of peace and love and happiness and the ability to commune and communicate with your fellow brothers and sisters in a kind and generous way, then you are going to have a different experience. But still, even if you're living a life, we will say an ordinary life, in ordinary human terms, you are still not quite getting those grades that you need to graduate. The love, focus, the mastering of that, the refusal to judge, the unwavering knowledge that everyone is connected, and that as if you attack anybody, including yourself, you are off track, you're doing something in a distorted and unloving way. The mastery of that is what gets you the get out of jail free card. You've all played Monopoly, you all know, oh great, I've got the get out of jail free card. That's what this place is like. Some people even call this a prison planet because of the difficulty in escaping the frequency of Earth. But that is all going to change. In this generation, you are going to have an increasing frequency that is going to force you into transformation. We want you to be excited about it. We don't want you to fear it. We don't want you to think, well, how can I guarantee that my entire family is going to do exactly the same thing that I'm going to do? You cannot. You must do your work. You must demonstrate the work that you're doing through your actions and through your words and through your deeds. And that is what will change the world. It is you doing your homework, you understanding that you are just being asked to master the basics. How do I love? How do I live happily? How do I express myself in a way that's fun? How do I have purpose? All of those basic things. A lot of you are struggling with a lot of those things. Now, again, we don't want you to go into fear. Going into fear means that you believe in your limitations rather than your potential. Going into fear means that you believe in death rather than life. You must watch yourself going into fear and ask yourself, what do I think is going to happen? You are just going to be asked to repeat your grade is what's going to happen if you don't come into that frequency that is required to undergo the upgrade. So that's what it is. It's a graduation ceremony. We have mentioned it many times before, and we have called it the end of a spiritual season. And the ego won't like it, and the ego will be afraid of that phrase. It is not Judgment Day in the way that you have been taught in your society. It is about expansion. It is about harvesting ripe fruit, which is a joyous event when you pick the apples off the tree at the end of summer. Understand that you are all doing exactly what you need to do to be happy with your life review, to look back and go, wow, I really struggled in those first 20 or 30 years of my life, but in my 40s, boy, I really started to get on it. And those of you that are older can say, I really thought I wasn't going to make it there for a while because I was already 50 and doing not very well. And here in the last 10 or 15 years of my life, I turned everything around and I was able to see the truth. I was able to see where I was off track, and I was able to repair relationships. I was able to forgive trespasses that had been bothering me for decades. Wow, even though it came late in my life, I'm so happy. And yes, there may be a few more projects for you to work on, but that is okay. It is never done. There is no point in trying to become enlightened to be done. I am not done my work. I continue all the time expanding, teaching, learning, developing all kinds of aspects of myself, my consciousness, the beings with whom I am allied, and so will you. So enjoy your day today, enjoy your life now. You will look back on this life when you pass over and see the missed opportunities for joy, for self-expansion and self-expression, for creativity. And you will say to yourself, I didn't realize what a great opportunity it was to be in a physical body in that three-dimensional world. next time I'm going to do better. And you will be enthusiastic to come back. Believe it or not, you will be enthusiastic to come back, because when you're in that intermediary place, you understand everything. You understand your shortcomings. You understand why you couldn't take that opportunity, and you want to do better because you have the comprehension that it is a never-ending process, and doing better is what you are designed to do. You are designed to improve, 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 improve. And you have the desire to improve, the desire to expand, the desire to return to that unified, beautiful, loving, all-encompassing love. And you will do whatever you can to accomplish that goal. We will return shortly. Wow, okay. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna have a sip of this. All right. This is for Ananda. As a partner of someone who is sincerely trying to overcome a gambling addiction, it has been quite a ride so far. My question is, if the tendency for an addiction is shown in a birth horoscope, because we just found out it is in hers, what's the purpose? Is it to experience everything there is to experience, dive deep into destructive behavior, just to experience, or is there a way to direct it differently so it will bring benefit? Aren't we all addicted, but we just don't call it that? Is dedication to a spiritual practice like A Course in Miracles not also an addiction? Because if we don't, we lose purpose. Is addiction used in a beneficial way, dedication and perseverance toward a goal of happiness, joy, and eternal love? Good question. Let's see what Ananda says. We're with you again, dear ones. Your astrological system is what we call a worldly system in that sense. It is about living in the world. You will be affected by the astrological chart that you are born under. However, as you evolve, as you experience the experiences that that chart destines for you, you will get the experience that you need to evolve out of it. So for example, in this circumstance, you can use that piece of evidence in two ways. You can use that piece of evidence to say, wow, this is hardwired into me. And so obviously it's a very important thing I'm going through. But what we would like to throw in there is, am I seeing the unevolved side of it and how much pain it's causing? So for example, we'll move over a little bit into another subject, because it's always good to look at a subject that is less triggering, especially for the person who's asking the question. If you have an astrological chart that says you are going to be extremely influential, extremely dominant, extremely powerful in your life, there is an unevolved aspect of that, and there is an evolved aspect of that. Most of you are born under a certain configuration because you need to have the experiences again of that particular configuration. But you have, and this is where free will comes in, you have the ability to pursue it in the unevolved or in the evolved way. So a love of travel in your chart, for example, can be demonstrated in the unevolved way as a constant moving, never settling down, always thinking the grass is greener on the other side. You're traveling, you're incessantly traveling, but you're doing it with no purpose. You're doing it without joy. You're doing it from a lower frequency. But that same quality in the person can be developed by what? Witnessing the negative consequences of the unevolved approach. So in witnessing, oh, I've lived in 50 houses and I'm still not happy, there comes a point where you think, well, maybe I need to stop doing that lower frequency kind of moving and look to see if there's a higher frequency way of doing it. So for example, we could say getting a job that involves travel so that you have a home and you have some stability, but you travel all the time so that you kind of itch that scratch or scratch that itch that your natal chart gives you. So what we would suggest in this circumstance is that the being witness the unevolved nature of that addiction and ask, is there a more evolved way of doing it? So what's the person doing? They're wasting money, losing money, causing financial stress by thinking that gambling is going to make them happy. It gives them a hit in the short term. Somebody like that would be very well suited to train perhaps as a stockbroker, to train themselves to get into a market where there is that high of maybe this is going to go, maybe it's not, but they are going to train themselves in awareness that they've got this gambling side of themselves. And after all, isn't that what the stock market is? It is a big gamble, but we wouldn't want you to go into it with the same unevolved frequency. We would say you must do some spiritual work to get yourself to see that you are causing pain, that you're causing suffering, and yet that was what was necessary. So it's really about the person who's addicted and the person who's involved with the addicted person to decide when they've had enough of suffering. Suffering is not required. If somebody else's behavior is causing you financial pain and you're allowing it, then you must look at why you're allowing it. Until you are sick of that, you will facilitate their financial problems. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I love you and I no longer support your addiction. You will get no money from me. I will not cover your debts. And I'm doing this because I love you. So that is something for the question asker to address. Why are they allowing themselves to suffer? Because that is the only thing that is pertinent to you. Your partner's addiction is their patterning, their assignment to experience in this time and place because it's showing up in their natal chart. But there is no such thing in the question asker's natal chart. That would be the place to go to look and see what are your tendencies and are they a match for your partners. So you may find in your natal chart, we're speaking to the question asker now, you may find that you are hardwired to have money problems. And so you and your partner are a perfect puzzle fit. What she is lacking, you give, and what you are lacking, she gives. And that is a decision that must be made individually because you are each having your own unique experience of this. And we will say again, suffering is your indicator that you are off track. If you are suffering, but the suffering is through dedicated prayer, meditation, counseling practice becoming less, then you are on the right track. But at any point, anyone is perfectly allowed to say, I'm no longer supporting your addiction. That is your spiritual journey. It is not mine. We will return shortly. Okay. Question. Can Jesus and Ananda elaborate about forgiveness of the Holocaust as mentioned in Tina's book? You can free yourself from the karma of chaos. Okay, let's see what Jesus has to say about this. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. The book was written to address that subject, and most of the information that you need about how and why to do that is there. But we will go into it a little bit more for you here. Any time that you go to the past and hate what has happened, you are bringing that frequency into the present moment, and so it will make something of a low frequency happen. That is why forgiveness works, and that is why forgiveness is so important. Because whether you have been abused, sexually abused by a parent, or betrayed by a business partner or a husband or wife, every time you go to that sin and you feel it again, you are contaminating the eternal now with the frequency of that sin, that attack, that judgment, and you are planting seeds of that now for the future. That is why it is so important to forgive the past, because you are contaminating the future with that past every time you choose to bring it into your current memory. Every time you choose to use your memory to retrieve your victimization or your hatred of somebody else or your judgments of a particular kind of person, let's say Hitler or Nazis, you are bringing the past into the present. You're doing it through your free will of choice. There is nothing in anyone's day to day, unless perhaps you're living in Israel or in a Jewish community, there is nothing going on today that requires you to hold a judgment about what happened that many years ago. It will only come up if you are watching a documentary or a newscast or someone's Facebook post about it. If you have a strong negative reaction, then pray for your enemies. Pray for your enemies means that you offer that being that you consider the sinner up for good. You are saying this was a profound lack of love that was demonstrated in the Holocaust. It was a profound global phenomenon of ignoring signs of anti-Semitism, but it is not happening now. It is over. It is only because people will not stop talking about it and keep cultivating the cult of unforgiveness that it has been kept alive. And you can see the frequency of what is going on in Israel as the same frequency. There is a Holocaust there, and the people that are being persecuted by the persecuted are reaping the rewards of unforgiveness. That is what's going on there. So for your planet's sake and for your own frequency's sake, when something comes up like that, say, I release this thought to the Holy Spirit so that we can all be free of the past. I release this judgment I have about Germans, or I release this judgment I have about Hitler so that we can all be free. That's all you need to do. You need to not tell the story. You need to not get into the conversation. You need to say, if somebody wants to go on about it, you can say, I'm sorry, this is just not something that I'm interested in talking about anymore. I'm interested in about creating a loving future. And their immediate answer will be if we forget it, it will happen again. And your answer can be no. If we don't forget it, it will happen again, because we're bringing the frequency constantly back into this creative moment here. And it's a frequency of unforgiveness. It's a frequency of fear. It's a frequency of war. We will return shortly. Wow, okay. How are we doing for time there? Okay. Let me just have a little sip of my tea. Next question. I felt the book, The Christ Letters, was powerfully written, and in my heart, I felt it was Jesus' dictation. However, when I recommended the book to another Course in Miracles student, I was told Jesus would never use such language, and the book was dualistic in nature due to Jesus using the words good and evil, and that was someone else's dictation. Was the book, the Christ letters, truly dictated by Jesus, or my inner compass is all scrambled? Okay, let's see what Jesus has to say about that. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And I have been working with the person who has been dictating the Christ letters. However, as we have mentioned before, all channelers have their own speed bumps, their own little quirks and distortions in the minds that prevent some information from coming through at all. Some speed bumps prevent information coming through in a truthful way. But we want you to understand that these letters are, we will say, 95% accurate. This being is a very, very clear channel because of the decade or so that she spent doing A Course in Miracles to clarify her mind. She does, however, have some speed bumps. And those subjects we tend to skirt around a little bit until her mind has those subjects clarified. So there are some subjects that this being has some resistance to or some blocks to. And so we do our best to avoid those subjects, or to, when we channel through her, we sort of turn up the volume, so to speak, so that she is overridden. If her consciousness is too far towards the front of her mind when we are speaking, she can be thinking contrary thoughts, and that, we will say, shrinks the channeling opening. It never closes it. There is not a subject that she will not channel, but it will shrink it. And so there is a process that this being goes through whenever a new book is coming through or a new subject is coming through, where we have to sort of push to open that channel if there has been some beliefs or ideas that are constricting the volume through which we can access her. She is very open to that process, and so we don't have too many problems. Other beings, however, do have some serious constrictions, and it can affect the channeling. What we would like all of you to do that want to read other channeled material, and of course, if you're into channeling and into my teachings, there's a natural tendency to want to go to other channelers. You are going to find a multiplicity of different channeled material that completely contradicts other channeled material. What we would like you to understand in that case is that some beings are not channeling that one that you know as Jesus. They are channeling somebody else, or they are channeling that one that you know as Jesus with some speed bumps in the way. But also there is another variant, which is that there are different pieces of information that need to come through to your planet at different times for different people. There are some beings on Earth who cannot listen to this message. And so another message is given to help awaken them. What we want you to understand is that this is not done as a form of deception, but just as you would not give the same lessons to a kindergartner as you would to a grade 12 student, they are completely different. And you may tell something to a kindergartner that you would not tell to a grade 12 student. You do this with your children, for example. You tell them about the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. You tell these lies because you think they make everything more palatable or more fun or more understandable. And at times, we have been known to do the same thing. Over time, as you all become more and more educated, as you all become more and more awakened, as you all become more and more clear, you will look back on some of the early days of your study and you will go, oh, that's actually not quite true, is it? But it was the best way to get a message through to beings at a certain level of evolution. What we say to you is try not to compare and contrast too much. Go to each channeled piece of material that you are drawn to and ask yourself, does this resonate with me? If one resonates with you and one doesn't, then go to the one that resonates with you. It probably resonates with you because it's not triggering you so much. It may not be more truthful than the one that doesn't resonate with you. In fact, it may be less truthful than the one that doesn't resonate with you, but perhaps it is closer to your frequency for now. So remember, stay out of judgment about the different channeling stories. There are books and channeled material about me and my life that are completely counter to the account that I have brought through this being. And there is a purpose for it. We have covered that. There are stories that need to be told in a certain way to appeal to certain people, because that's where they are. That's where they need to be for now. And those stories will resonate with them more, even though if you compare and contrast, they will cause great conflict in you. We understand that this is confusing because in your world, it's black and white. There's only one Jesus. He only did one thing. But we from spirit are going, we've got a lot of beings here with a lot of different beliefs. How can we access all of them with information that excites them and makes them happy and leads them towards the truth? We have to meet you where you are. We have to tell you the stories that are going to open your minds and get you excited. And as you expand and grow, you will come to see clearly what the truth is. You will come to see clearly that there are other timelines as well that have been very, very difficult for you to understand because of your beliefs in time and your beliefs in that there is only one life and it is being lived now. Even the idea of simultaneous lives is very, very challenging for you. Why? Because you're not meant to be thinking about 7 other lifetimes. You are meant to be focused on the one you're in. And as a closing comment, we would say to you, try not to worry about what I did 2,000 years ago. Try to stay focused on what you're doing today. That is our advice for you in our closing comment. We love you all very much. We will speak to you again soon. All right. Okay, I guess he's closing down the show. I think that was a great closing comment, actually. Yeah, thank you all for joining me. I am going to do my best to do a channeling next Sunday, and that way I will be caught up, and then I will be leaving for our Mexico retreat. I have a very busy November and December coming up, so if there is an issue with live streaming, just rest assured that I will catch up and you will get your required 2 subscriptions a month. 2 live streamings a month until January, and then we will be reconfiguring everything, but you'll be getting a lot of new information. So hang in there, and hopefully I'll see you next week. I will be sending out an email with the link for this recording, hopefully within 24 hours. Bye.